new One World Trade Center is being built to stand in place of the fallen Twin Towers. When complete in 2013, it will rise to 1,776 feet high, the tallest and safest skyscraper in America.
It's not just another tower. It's a symbol of this country and what has made this country great.
You want to come back and show we're back and we did it right, we did it better.
Architect David Childs sought to create a response to the tragedy of 9/11 in the New York skyline.
This, because of its nature, would be the most important building because it was the marker for the memorial.
Tower 1 will stand tall over the footprints of the Twin Towers, now memorials to the victims of 9/11. On the 10th anniversary of September 11th, these memorials will be the first part of the new World Trade Center to open to the public.
The memorial is the missing 200 feet square buildings. They are voids, they sink down into the earth, and it's a place for remembrance and thinking about all the things that happened there. This building could be that same shape and plan, but it would rise up. It turns away, rising up into the sky.
Marking ground zero in the sky, this tower will be a symbol of hope, rising from a site of tragedy, a beacon for the region.
I remember how I used to look over from Newark Airport and you could see the Twin Towers and you'd orient yourself and say, I'm home. And you don't have that now. Soon, we're going to have something that people around the world will immediately recognize and say, oh yeah, this is New York. This is what used to be ground zero.
Architect David Childs' design for Tower 1 was influenced by his own experiences on 9/11.
I stood right here in this corner and looked at those buildings. When they fell down, suddenly there was this emptiness. You sense that loss because two enormous elements were missing. It's great to see it here, I must say, after all of these years of thinking and planning, and to see it in reality at the full scale gives you a sense of place of the building that you can never have through any other kind of drawing. This particular project is so overladen with the emotion of what we watched out our windows. The sense of the obligation, the responsibility to make this something that is positive, not just a memory of the awful thing that happened, but how we as a culture responded. What did we do?
Childs was set to retire in 2006, but stayed on an extra 5 years just to complete Tower 1, determined to see his last project reclaim the New York skyline.
The final design, I think, is a powerful one because it is iconic and simple, and yet it is, in a way, a very strong visual relationship to the memory of the original buildings.
Designed to evoke the memory of the Twin Towers, the new Tower 1 will rise to exactly the same height, 1,368 feet. But a 400-foot antenna on top of the building will take Tower 1 to 1,776 feet.
1776 is not just a clever number, it's a date that is the most important to me, the Declaration of Independence. That's the date which declared that all people have full human rights, not just America. Everybody in the world deserves rights, justice. Because it says something about our country, it says something about what it really means. It talks about democracy.
When all of the debris at Ground Zero was removed, it left a crater 7 stories deep and nearly a quarter mile across.
That human scale, that sense of loss. People said, don't build anything there. The whole site should just be a memorial. You had others who thought that we were focusing too much on the past and not enough on the future. And of course, a lot of people said, we can't build tall in New York or in America anymore. Look what happened.
Since September 11th, 2001, the world has been waiting for signs of progress at Ground Zero, asking the question, how will America respond?
It was a rainy November day, and one of the engineers said, does anyone want to go to the site? And we were all looking down at the site, and everybody said no. But I said, I'd like to go down. And I have to tell you that my world changed. As I descended some 75 feet down to the bedrock, I suddenly had a revelation.
At the very bottom of the hole, created by the fallen Twin Towers, architect Daniel Libeskind searched for a way forward.
When I went down there, I suddenly saw this was not just a site to be rebuilt. Almost 3,000 people perished. This site is such a great, passionate wound. That's why people care that this void in New York ceased to be a void, that it is filled with something memorable, something that will heal that space. But you have to create a balance between tragedy and hope.
After years of debate, study, and design, Libeskind's revelation at bedrock became a master plan, a vision that would honor the fallen and lay out a future for a new World Trade Center.
My idea was not to build on the space where people were murdered, to leave that space completely open, to leave it as a memorial.
The footprints of the missing Twin Towers will be transformed into the two largest man-made waterfalls in North America. The names of each 9/11 victim will surround them, so families and all people have a place to mourn those who died that day. The memorial pools will be surrounded by an 8-acre park, filled with trees relocated from the sites of the other attacks that day, at the Pentagon and the crash site of Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. A new museum will be built to tell the story of September 11th. It will surround 2 steel columns known as tridents, the only intact remnants of the original Twin Towers. The master plan will create a new gateway, a central train station that will welcome 1 million visitors and commuters every week. For Libeskind, the key to a new World Trade Center was not to simply reconstruct the Twin Towers as they were.
One of my ideas was to distribute density into 5 buildings and create a spiral, very much analogous to the spiral in Lady Liberty's hand of the Torch of Liberty. You will see a spiral ascending to the tallest building, Tower number 1.
Tower 1 will rise 105 stories to a staggering 1,776 feet, 400 feet taller than the Twin Towers. The tallest and strongest building in American history. In 2003, a proposal submitted by world-renowned architect Daniel Libeskind was selected as the World Trade Center's new master plan. The plan included something called the Wedge of Light, which calls special attention to the position of the sun on the morning of September 11th.
Light was such an important element of that tragic day, because it was a beautiful day, it was blue skies, it was a perfect day, and then in the morning we saw those horrifying images. So I created an additional public space defined by the lines of light of September 11th. At 8:46 a.m. when the first tower was struck, and 10:28 when the second building collapsed.
In response to the master plan, Calatrava rotated his transit hall to align with one edge of the Wedge of Light, so that every September 11th, at the moment the second tower collapsed, The sun will shine directly through its central skylight, creating a symmetrical shaft of light that will bisect the concourse.
Calatrava's station had a brilliant idea, which is not just to form the skylight, but to shift the whole station, to align it to the wedge of light, so that its whole geometry departs, actually, from the geometry of the office buildings. 1028, second tower collapse. The light is in the center of Calatrava's terminal. That's the memorial that no one will ever forget.
And it's better on the bottom rows.
The names of all 2,983 victims hang on a conference room wall at the office of memorial architect Michael Arad.
That makes, I think you can move Richard a little to the right, right? Yeah, that's big.
Each of these names will soon be incised into bronze panels that will surround the memorial pools. The panels around the North Void will honor those who died at the North Tower on 9/11 and in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. The South Void panels will name those who died at the South Tower, the Pentagon, Shanksville, and all of the first responders. Each name represents a life. And many have connections to each other that are much deeper than just their place of death, like Eileen Fletcher and Ivan Antonio Perez. Eileen worked on the 94th floor of the South Tower. Her fiancé, Ivan, worked one floor above her. Ivan and Eileen were engaged to be married in August 2002.
We were super. He did for us.
She was actually an avid Yankees fan, and Ivan was a Mets fan, so there were quite a few arguments at the dinner table. She went into work like a normal day, and I think 35 minutes later, you were on the phone with her. And at that point, she basically said, "Mommy, something's going on."
If Eileen and Ivan had been listed alphabetically, as is typical of most memorials, their names could have been 250 feet apart, on opposite sides of the South Void. But through what Arad calls meaningful adjacencies, the families decided whose names would adjoin the names of their loved ones.
What was very important to us was to not create a list of names. A lot of people worked together, obviously, or people who commuted together every day that were good friends, and I wanted to try and bring some of that meaning into the arrangement of the names.
A tight panel, a tight row.
Yeah.
I could try.
So what looks like a random assortment of names to the untrained eye actually reflects a very carefully laid out order, as sort of a hidden order. We got over 1,200 responses from family members asking us to place the name of their loved one next to one or two or three or four other names.
The challenge of honoring the sheer number of requests was staggering, since moving a single piece changed the entire puzzle.
Fiorito and Graff down to the fourth row.
They will bring these people, for that moment, back to life. That's magical. And that's what this names arrangement adjacencies has done.
The day that Ron Vega has been waiting for has finally arrived. Today, he returns the survivor tree to ground zero.
Even within my dreams, I'm thinking about this job. Within my dreams, I'm in meetings talking to people about this job. It's tossing and turning all night. It's been a full, all-in experience.
As we all know, the story of 9/11 is a story of loss and heartbreak, but it is also a story of courage and survival. We're here to commemorate one symbol of our endurance, a single-calorie pear tree. It was found under the rubble, brought back to life, and is now being replanted right here.
You can see the damage from 9/11, where the neural pieces are, and then the growth after 9/11.
Yeah.
It's a very symbolic.
Really.
Ron is planting the survivor tree in a prominent position, adjacent to an open glade and near one of the majestic fountains flowing into the footprint of the South Tower.
The damage will always be there. It'll always be scarred and bruised and cut up. 2 towers fell on this tree. 100-mile-an-hour gale force wind knocked it over. And you wonder, how did she survive? How did she make it? I'm pretty much done. For my personal accomplishments, today is it. I could crawl into this little pen and die right there. That's it. I'm done. I'll be happy. That's it. Nothing else I need to do. Really. I mean, I'm going to try to live as long as I can, but I think that explains it. You know, if you could just say that you worked the last 9 years for something special, that's it. To give this tree a chance to be part of this memorial, come on. Doesn't get any better than that.